And welcome back, everybody, to Party Chat Sports. It's one of your hosts, Caleb Gill, and we are now fully into draft season. The NFL free agency, the first week or so, there was even the first day or two. That was about all you needed of NFL free agency before you finally got into that draft mindset. I mean, you might have already been in the draft mindset. I know we have been for some time. There's a couple days there in free agency where some things can change. Some signings could impact if the team takes a guy or not in the first round or anywhere in the draft at that matter. But now it's all draft content, I'd imagine. From here until the draft in about a month and some change from now. Recording this on March 20th. Hopefully going to try getting this up Friday, March 21st. Spring is here. Draft season is here. So for today, I'm going to do another mock draft. We'll get some other draft-related content. I think Drew and Dylan are going to get some running back drafted or running backs that can be drafted and some prospects that they're looking at and some feedback on the running back class for this year's draft. So I'm looking forward to that episode. That should be coming up hopefully sooner rather than later. But today, it's been a minute since we put a mock draft up, and I wanted to get another mock draft, a 10 pick. So your first 10 picks of the NFL mock draft is what we're going to do today. But a little twist I'm going to throw on. It's not just going to be your standard 1 through 10. I'm going to throw some trades in there. All right, so this is not just a mock draft video for picks 1 through 10. It's a first 10 pick mock draft with trades. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode here at Party Chat Sports. So let's get into the mock draft for today. That first pick in the draft is really where I think things start getting interesting. I mean, if there isn't a trade before draft night, it's going to be really interesting what happens when the Titans are on the clock, assuming they still have that pick. Do they keep the pick and draft Cam Ward or one of the top two players in this class, if it be Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter? Or do they trade the pick? And if they trade the pick, how far back are they going to go? And I have been saying for a little bit now, I think the Giants are a team that you're watching and seeing what they do at quarterback. Right now, the rumor is that it's going to be Russell Wilson or Joe Flacco. Now, some insiders might say, Russell Wilson, are they still going to draft a quarterback? They'll just draft a guy to build around him. Me? I think most of us here at Party Chat Sports would agree Russell Wilson will not prevent the Giants and should not prevent the Giants from drafting a quarterback if they like one. Nor should it prevent them from trading up for a quarterback if they like one. So with the Titans on the clock right now, they have all these things to ponder and consider. If they like Cam Ward, they should probably take him. You have the first overall pick. You're hoping you're not in a spot again to where you're drafting a quarterback this high without having to give up capital on your own. But the head coach is kind of on the hot seat. So I think the timelines being different for the general manager and head coach does make things a little complicated. Like, the head coach might want a more veteran guy, but who do the Titans have at quarterback right now? I don't know. Maybe they haven't signed anybody because they've already committed to drafting Cam Ward with the first overall pick. I don't know who's starting at quarterback. Will Levis? Nah. I do think ultimately they're going to have to get a veteran. But with the first pick in the NFL draft, the Tennessee Titans are going to trade it to the New York Giants, who are going to be absolutely desperate. They're going to be. And if I'm the Titans, I'm looking at the Giants as the trade back team, because if you are not sold on Cam Ward, you trade back with the Giants, and you're still going to get one of the top two players of this draft. You're still going to get one of either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. So I do think, ultimately, it's going to be the Giants making the jump up to number 1. And with that first pick, after the Giants and that desperate organization grabs the first overall pick and they trade it for whatever the haul is from the Titans, that's when they're going to take Cam Ward from Miami, the quarterback. He's a talented quarterback. I think he's going to be, if he's developed right, he can be very good, I think. It just comes down to how much of a leash does Brian Dable have? Is he going to be forced to start immediately? And you know what? If they sign a Russ, he may not have to start immediately. That might be best case scenario for Cam Ward. And I've been saying for a long time that quarterback should not be starting week 1. I'm a strong believer in not starting a quarterback, letting them sit, let them learn, and don't throw them out there. But we as humans are impatient, and especially as NFL fans, even more impatient. So when you're a fan of a team that drafts a quarterback early like that, you want to see him out there. The team wants to see him out there. The ownership, everybody wants to see that investment pay off early. You know, I don't know what that was. Teams are much more concerned about a return now instead of a return later. So I do ultimately think that the Giants, with the hot seat that the entire staff's on, they're going to get desperate. They're going to make a move to the first overall pick and try saying, you know what, let's develop this quarterback to help save our jobs. So the New York Giants, first overall pick, after trading with the Tennessee Titans, are going to draft quarterback Cam Ward. Now the Browns on the clock. What do? Well, you have the best 2 players in the draft available. You have everyone available to you that's a non-quarterback that you want. If you want to draft Mason Graham, the defensive tackle, like, you can do whatever you want here if you're the Browns. I think they would have been intrigued by Cam Ward if the Titans kept the pick, and if the Titans don't take Cam Ward. Then I don't see Cam Ward falling out of the top 3 regardless. I really think he's going to go number 1 overall to either the Titans or whoever the Titans trade with. It just seems to be heading in that direction. But if he's there at 2, I do think the Browns do take him. But he's not here. Does that mean they're going to take Shedeur Sanders? No, I've been also very consistent, I think, in this take that Shedeur Sanders is not going to get drafted in the top 10. I think he's going to be somewhere in the teens, 20, somewhere in that range is where he's going to get drafted. So the Browns, they are going to draft the best player available. And for them, they just re-signed Myles Garrett. So I do believe it's going to be Travis Hunter here with the 2nd overall pick to the Cleveland Browns. The talented 2-way player out of Colorado. And I said before, I think if whoever drafts Travis Hunter, you draft him to be a corner. And then you utilize him on offense as a wide receiver to be your dual threat weapon. If in certain packages, I think that's the best way to utilize him. If you're trying to utilize both skills, and even then, I still think he's going to be a good corner in this league. If he's just playing one position, which he should be, let him fine-tune his skills. And honestly, with Jim Schwartz, I think he can be a good defensive back for the Cleveland Browns. And he's going to, with Myles Garrett up front, he's not going to be the number 1 corner because Denzel Ward's still there. I think that's a good spot for Travis Hunter in Cleveland. And it just feels like a fit. I really can't explain why it feels right. I do think Travis Hunter ultimately is going to be a Cleveland Brown with the 2nd overall pick. So with the 3rd overall pick, the Tennessee Titans, now you're sitting there, it's like, all right, well, Travis Hunter's gone. We got all this capital from the trade down. We can still take our guy, the pass rusher, edge rusher, out of Penn State, Abdul Carter. So this is a perfect scenario, I think, for the Titans. If you're not in love with Cam Ward, you trade down and you draft the guy that you probably would have drafted number 1 overall anyways. I think Abdul Carter is going to be that edge rusher. And when you're in division, with C.J. Stroud, if Trevor Lawrence ever picks it up and becomes something, like, you got to get after him. And edge rusher is such a premium asset. And you look at what Mike Borgonzi, when he was with the Chiefs, they were big on trying to build up that defensive front. at the defense in general. So you take the best player on the board, best player in this draft, in my opinion, and Abdul Carter, and you get him at number 3. That's a steal. You don't think twice about that. So the first 3 picks, in some order, I do think it's going to be Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, and Abdul Carter. In some, it's going to be those 3. What order they go, I don't know. But this is what I predict is going to happen with the top 3, where it's going to be the Giants trading up to number 1 and grabbing Cam Ward, the Browns staying at 2 to draft Travis Hunter, and then the Titans, with that trade down from the Giants, going to draft Abdul Carter. Now the Patriots on the clock here at 4. I think things start getting a little bit interesting because the first 3, I feel like that's consensus. But what do the Patriots do at 4? You got to go offense. So do you take a Ted McMillan and get a wide receiver for your young quarterback, Drake May? Do you go offensive line? This is Mike Vrabel we're talking about. He's going to want to run bully ball. He's going to want to win in the trenches. He's an aggressive type of guy. He's going to want to make sure that up front's protected. He's going to want to make sure Drake May is protected. So this is the same pick I had in my first mock draft. I'm going to keep it the same here. I think the Patriots are going to take the offensive tackle out of LSU, Will Campbell. Ultimately, again, they're going to want to protect Drake May. He does need somebody to throw to, but he's got to be standing upright in order to throw to them in the first place. It's that Joe Burrow with either Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell meme that's gone around for years. Would you rather have Jamar Chase throw to, but you're always on your back? Or would you rather draft an offensive lineman and be able to throw to somebody? So I do think the Patriots, with Mike Vrabel, the style of play that he has demonstrated he wants to run, he wants to be that aggressive organization. He wants to be that aggressive team, and you have to have a good offensive line. You have to be winning up front in order to do that. So Will Campbell, I think, is going to be the pick here for the Patriots. At 5, with the Jacksonville Jaguars now on the clock. Last time, I believe I took Ted McMillan here at 5 for the Jaguars. They've added a couple of receivers. They made some moves. Right now, I'm looking at the Jaguars, and you need help up front. And the best player on the board is a defensive tackle. It's a defensive lineman. I think you just have to take best player available here if you're the Jaguars. So Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, is not going to fall out of the top 5. They're going to take the defensive tackle out of Michigan, Mason Graham. I know you're sitting here wondering, come on, Caleb, you said there was going to be trades. There's going to be trades. Don't worry. We're going to get there. We are going to get to one more trade? Maybe? So, stay tuned, okay? Don't get anxious. Don't get antsy yet. That's 5 picks with 1 trade already in the top 10 of the NFL draft. Now let's get to the back half of these top 10 picks. So with the 6th overall pick, the Raiders are sitting there. And it could go a couple different ways. Cam, in our group mock draft, had the Raiders going with Ashton Genty. And that does feel like a Raiders type of pick. That nice running back. Pete Carroll. He's had good running backs in the past. He was at USC when they had Reggie Bush. They had Marshawn Lynch. Beast mode in Seattle. So a good running back is that. I mean, that's kind of Pete Carroll's cup of tea right there. They could go Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan. There's a couple different ways they could go with this. Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback from Colorado. Jackson Dart, if they depending on which they prefer, could be the quarterback here, or the pick here, the quarterback out of Ole Miss. Or, these next couple of picks, you have the Jets, you have the Panthers, and you have the Saints coming up here in these next 3 picks. All 3 of those guys could be in line to take Ted McMillan. They all could use a big-bodied wide receiver like that. The Raiders, they probably could. I think they're more likely to trade down. So, with the 6th overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders are going to trade down. And who's going to move up for the 6th overall pick? New Orleans Saints. Hear me out. Kellen Moore had a lot of success. Maybe not a lot. He had success with the Philadelphia Eagles in large part, not just because of their stud running back, Saquon Barkley, but they were having success because of A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown being a big body, physical receiver that can climb the ladder. That style of wide receiver, that style of play has worked for Kellen Moore. I think he's going to want to get that kind of wide receiver. And you just never know what the Saints are going to do. They're a weird team. It's hard to gauge. But if I'm the Saints, I'm looking at the Panthers and the Jets, especially the Panthers. I don't want Ted McMillan in my division unless it's on my team. And with Kellen Moore, the new head coach of the Saints, having coached a guy like A.J. Brown in the past, I think he's going to look at Ted McMillan and say, you know what, we might be able to replicate that sort of success. Maybe not to the extent of A.J. Brown, but I think we can replicate that. So the Saints are going to move up to 6 overall, swap with the Raiders, and take Ted McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, jumping both the Jets and the Panthers that could be looking at a big body wide receiver like that with their first round draft picks. I think, you don't know what you have in Chris Olave. If you keep him, you just can't rely on him staying healthy. You got to start building up that offense. To me, this just makes sense. Now with the 7th overall pick, the Jets have watched a couple of guys that they probably like be picked in front of them. The 2 picks right in front of them are guys that I could see the Jets targeting, Mason Graham and Ted McMillan. But you still have some really good prospects here at 7. So you could look to trade down with a team that wants to maybe jump the Panthers, maybe jump the Raiders, who are sitting there at 9 now, the Bears, trying to, whoever. If you're trying to get into the top 10, you're looking all right, who do I need to get in front of to get who I want to get? So the Jets are in a potential trade down spot because there's a couple guys that would fill some needs that are a little bit further down the board. Or you just take your guy here at 7. And right now, if you're the Jets, watching Mason Graham and Ted McMillan go right in front of you, you're looking at either A, Tyler Warren, or B, Armand Menbu. Both are going to help on offense. Tyler Warren, stud, talented tight end, who is going to be able to help in the run game as an extra run blocker if need be. He's going to provide some assistance to Justin Fields. He's going to throw him to the tight end, and just Tanner Engstrand's offense is probably going to. They just need a tight end, and they probably would vision Tyler Warren as a Laporta type. But right tackle is now a huge need for the Jets after not bringing back Morgan Moses. They really didn't sign anybody of note. Okafor is not a guy that I'm hoping is going to be the starting tackle on the right side. The rest of the offensive line looks good, but right tackle is still kind of sketch. So you're looking, it's I don't know, talented tight end, right tackle. It's tough. It's a tough decision to make here at 7. But you got to bank on your scouting department to find somebody later on to fill the other shoe. So right here, take the 7th overall pick, the NFL draft, the New York Jets are going to draft and select tight end Tyler Warren out of Penn State. So you got 2 Penn State guys in the top 10. And this, I've been mocking Tyler Warren to the Jets a lot in our group chat, sending that one quite frequently. Just the way the board's falling, a lot of times, it just makes sense. And it's going to come down to, if these 2 guys are available, it's a toss-up on what I think the Jets are going to do. I think they'll lean towards Tyler Warren, but I would not be shocked at all, or disappointed even, if they took Armand Menbu, because they could use that right tackle, and then you take a tight end later on. I could definitely see that being the case. It's a deep tight end class. You could definitely take your franchise right tackle, so you have your franchise left tackle and a franchise right tackle. You have your studs on the outside. the O-line set for the next 10 years, hopefully. Like, that's a scenario I could definitely see. And then you draft like a Mason Taylor or Harold Fannin Jr. Take one of those guys later. But Tyler Warren, last year the debate was, do you take Brock Bowers or an offensive lineman? They ultimately went offensive lineman, new regime. I could still see that same scenario playing out again this year. I wouldn't be upset either way. I'm leaning Tyler Warren as of today. The 8th overall pick in the NFL draft, the Panthers are sitting there. It's like, damn. Really wanted to get some help for Bryce Young. Tech McMillan gone. Tyler Warren's gone. You could sit there and take an edge rusher like a Mike Green. You still have some guys available like Shamir Stewart. Like, there's some talented players available for the Panthers. I think they're also in a spot where if you want to jump into the first round and try draft, I don't know who that is. If the call's important, they'll leave a voicemail, right? But they're in a spot where if you want to jump the Raiders now here at 9, or the Bears at 10 for Nash Genty or an Armand Membu, you could trade down. So with the 8th overall pick in the NFL draft, the Carolina Panthers are going to trade down. But with who are they going to trade down for? You ready for this one? The Dallas Cowboys. That's right. I did. I'm doing it. Drew has wanted a certain guy for a while. It's been a minute since he's talked about said guy, but I still think it's going to be helpful for this offense. So let's not beat around the bush here. With the 8th overall pick in the NFL draft, the Dallas Cowboys, after moving up with the Carolina Panthers, are drafting Ashton Genty, the running back out of Boise State. Electric. I could see Jerry wanting the spotlight. That's a headline-grabbing move for Jerry. It's aggressive. Not necessarily their style being aggressive, but it's fun. It's spicy. And it'll help their offense. They don't have a really good running back. Like, they have some guys that they could, lean on if they need to. But you don't have a stud. You don't have a star, right? And you definitely need a star there in Dallas. Ashton Genty, running back out of Boise State. The Dallas Cowboys are going to trade up to number 8 to jump the Raiders and the Bears. That leaves. That leaves the Raiders now sitting there. It's like, damn. We traded down. We might have wanted Ashton Genty here, but he's now gone. So what do we do? Well, you sit there. And another thing that Pete Carroll had in Seattle that worked was good secondary, the Legion of Boom. So you sit there, you don't panic, and you take the best defensive back on the board, Will Johnson. So with the 9th overall pick, the Raiders select cornerback out of Michigan, Will Johnson. I think that's going to be a solid pick. He seems like a Raiders type of pick. And it just kind of makes sense to me. So after the trade down, the Cowboys jumped the Raiders for Ashton Genty, leaving the Raiders now sitting there. It's like, maybe they didn't even want Ashton Genty. I don't know. But it's a scenario that could play out. I do think they're looking, it's like, do we like Shedeur Sanders enough? No. I don't think they do. So you go with the safe pick with Will Johnson. And I think he's going to be a really good defensive back there. Learning from Pete Carroll in that defense. It's going to be a solid move. He's going to have some... He's going to struggle. This is for damn sure, though. It's going to be tough. But you need good secondary. You need a good defense in that division when you're going up against Holmes, Herbert. If Bo Nix is legit, you need defense. So, draft defense, get Will Johnson. And hope and pray for the best, I guess. With the 10th overall pick, the final pick here in this mock draft episode, the Chicago Bears sitting on the clock. Now, this is a team that I think really, really wants Ashton Genty. But they got jumped. They got jumped by the Cowboys. So now what do? Well, you could go wide receiver. You could go Luther Burton III. You could go Buka. I don't think there's not really a tight end. That's maybe Colson Loveland, but I think this is a little too rich for Colson Loveland here. Running back, I'm not taking Hampton yet out of North Carolina, so maybe the Bears trade down and then draft Hampton, but you never know. I think they stay with the pick and continue building up that wall around Caleb Williams and draft Armand Mendu, the tackle out of Missouri, and you really fortify the front five, that wall in front of Caleb Williams. So there really is no excuse for Caleb Williams to struggle due to poor blocking. Now, if he struggles because of weapons, that's another story. But good teams find wide receivers they find weapons later in the draft. It just happens. There's talented guys to go around. Good teams find them. So if you're if you know what you're doing, you can find a talented wide receiver later on in round 2, or you trade for one, whatever. But here at 10, you take the best offense player available on the board, and that's Armand Mendu. So, a little different from my last mock draft, but there are trades in this one. So let's recap. We'll run down our top 10 mock draft with trades. So with the first overall pick, the Tennessee Titans traded down with the New York Giants, and the Giants, with that first overall pick, drafted Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. Second overall, the Cleveland Browns stay at 2. They draft the dual threat, two-way player, cornerback / wide receiver, Travis Hunter out of Colorado. At number 3 overall, the Tennessee Titans, after the trade down with the New York Giants, stay there and take their guy, Abdul Carter, the edge rusher out of Penn State. Number 4, the New England Patriots opt to protect Drake May with offensive tackle Will Campbell out of LSU. At 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars take the best remaining player on the board, a top 3 player in this draft probably, defensive tackle Mason Graham out of Michigan. Number 6, the New Orleans Saints trade up for number 9 with the Las Vegas Raiders, and they select wide receiver Ted McMillan out of Arizona. And number 7, the New York Jets stay there and draft tight end Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Number 8, the Dallas Cowboys make the move into the top 10 after trading with the Carolina Panthers to draft running back Ashton Genty out of Boise State. Number 9, after the trade down with the Saints, the Raiders sit there and they take cornerback Will Johnson out of Michigan. And then rounding up the top 10, the Chicago Bears, with the 10th overall pick, take offensive tackle Armand Mendu out of Missouri. My last prediction, and I've been mentioning this a little bit more so off the mic, but I did this in this mock draft for this reason. I do think there's going to be a trade inside the top 10 for a non-quarterback at some point. It's a top-heavy draft. So I do think teams are going to look at that. It's like, we got to go up and get a Mason Graham, a Ted McMillan, Ashton Genty, maybe Tyler Warren. I don't know. But I do ultimately think a team from outside the top 10 is going to move up into the top 10 for a non-quarterback. So that's my top 10. That's my top 10 NFL mock draft with trades here to start your spring. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. Stay tuned at Party Chat Sports for everything going on TikTok, Twitter, anywhere and everywhere you get your podcast, YouTube. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell anyone you know that loves sports as much as we do, specifically football, to check us out, follow us, and stay tuned to all draft season. We're going to get more content on the feed. Hope you enjoy. Until next time, peace.